Welcome to the program. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Today we turn our attention to the ongoing tensions from the United States designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC, under the International Religious Freedom Act. That label is serious, as developments have shown. It means a country is found to engage in or tolerate systemic and ongoing violations of religious freedom. U.S. President Donald Trump, in a public social media post, accused the Nigerian government of carrying out a genocide against Christians. Nigeria's response was swift. The government firmly rejected the designation. Officials argue that the U.S. is relying on biased reports, outdated data, and a misreading of Nigeria's complex security crisis, where violence is often driven more by politics, land, and poverty than strictly religion. Civil society reactions have also been mixed. While some echo U.S. concerns, others say the designation paints the country with too broad a brush. The commentary so far has been quite polarizing. On One Slot today, we will attempt to take a more educational exploration of the matter. What does CPC label really mean for Nigeria? How do we separate fact from perception and perception from political pressure? And what must Nigeria do, not just to respond diplomatically, but to confront the real issues of insecurity, impunity, and protection of religious freedoms? A huge task for us today. For my guests, particularly, I have Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst. He joins us from Abuja. We have Saheed Babajide-Owonikoko, Center for Peace and Security Studies, Modibo Adama University, Yola location is also Abuja. Also joining in is Dr Nwachukwu Anakwenze, former PDP presidential aspirant 2022. He joins us from the U.S., California precisely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Let's start with you, Jide, and just run with one of the first questions I put as we're opening. What does it mean when the U.S. labels a country as a country of particular concern? Perhaps that will establish for us.
Okay, so when a country is labeled as a country of particular concern, as you have said, you have answered the question halfway in your intro. It means that that country is engaged in anti-human rights sponsorship of either genocide of different hues, whether religious or cultural or, tribal or ethnic genocide, because genocide is in different shapes and forms. Even though the one under which Nigeria has been categorized as a country of particular concern is under the Religious Act of the United States of America. The presumption is that Nigeria is a country in which there is a genocidal attack on the faith and the beliefs of some Nigerians. And of course, it comes with certain consequences. When you are listed as a country of particular concern under the Act, the Religious Act of the U.S., it then means you can suffer trade embargo, visa restriction, freezing of accounts, freezing of military aids, and several other economic sanctions. So it's not just about listing, it's about the consequences that is worrisome for many Nigerians. Aside from that, you also recall that Donald Trump's second tweet on that fateful day, I think October 31, 2025, also said that if Nigerian leaders do not do the needful, U.S. was going to come ablazing to take out the Boko Haram elements. from our soil. And that is the worrisome aspect many Nigerians are afraid to mean that US is trying to get involved in the domestic affairs of Nigeria. And of course, there have been a robust response from the Nigerian government.
Okay.
Trying to put issues in perspective.
Okay, Jide, let's bring in our next guest, Saheed, to talk to us about Nigeria's response. I want to see if I can get that accurately. They say the U.S. is relying on biased reports, outdated data, and misreading Nigeria's complex security crisis, where violence is often driven more by politics, land, and poverty than strictly by religion. My question actually is, what specific criteria do you think that the U.S. State Department used to arrive at this designation? And was the Commission of International Religious Freedom part of it in making the decision to designate Nigeria, in your view?
Thank you very much for the question. I think if we look at the designation, this is the second time in the last 5 years that Nigeria will be so designated. And for me, the current designation is something that it did not just come suddenly. It's a culmination of a lot of events, that took place that Nigeria probably did not take seriously. I recall somebody was talking about, let me start with this. If we could recall in 2016 when President President Buhari visited Trump, Trump confronted him with this allegation, and I'm not sure that President Buhari gave him a very good reply. And I also heard some eminent scholars discussing somewhere where they said they attended a program in, programs of international community where the designation of Nigeria, I think around 2021, 2022 was being discussed, and Nigeria was not there to even counter it at all. So I think this happened from a lot of series of events that took place that Nigeria really did not respond to very well. And the last event was the U.S. Senator who moved the motion in the U.S. Senate, for Nigeria to be so categorized. So I think that if we look at it, Nigeria did not deal with this event. Nigeria overlooked this event for a long time, and that is why we see it come up, as a very strong issue now that the country is dealing with.
All right, Doc, let me come to you. How does this label affect Nigeria's international standing politically and diplomatically? Because, there are lots of concern around being labeled CPAC by the U.S. and twice by the same president. Dr. Nwachukwu, if you can hear me.
Okay, I didn't know you were talking to me.
Yes, I'm talking to you.
It's been clear from independence, Nigeria has been practicing religious and tribal bigotry. That's why we are where we are. That's why we are carrying last in the world. Why are we debating that? Murdering of Christians has been going on for 100 years or more. It's worse. Now, a lot in the Middle Belt, Jos, Benue, they are massacring people, like 200 people.
Okay,
They kill pastors, they kill churches.
I want us to stay on question and on course. The question I asked is, how is this label, or how does this label affect Nigeria's international standing politically and diplomatically? Whatever the facts are on the ground, and of course the reactions from the Nigerian government, civil society, and the public here in Nigeria, cumulatively?
It should affect them. Eventually, it could affect their being able to travel or their families traveling. Eventually, it should lead to some prosecution of prominent people to the World Court for human genocide. So there's no question whether it's true or not. It's true, absolutely true. Nigerian government haven't taken it seriously, but there are consequences, like all those people involved can be prosecuted and jailed.
Okay,
and their family.
Talk to us about the consequences. You've talked about the visa issue and restricting people from traveling. These are sanctions. What about funding and shifts in military cooperation? There are fears that this may come up.
Yeah, that should come up if change is not made. That should come up. Life is very precious. No life should be taken, not one, and nothing happens. So Nigeria there should be consequences, financial, military, yes, and people should go to prison.
Jide, the consequences, if you look at what they're trying to defeat, wouldn't it defeat the whole purpose of declaring Nigeria a country of concern when you take, should they move ahead to take these consequences, funding restriction, visa restriction, but most importantly, military cooperation? Do you think it will get to that? Because the feelers I'm getting from analysts who are discussing this are saying that it will not get to that point, but there are fears.
Well, there are fears, and let me put issues in context. I'm afraid the framing of Nigeria as a country of particular concern over Christian genocide is debatable. It is debatable because much as everyone who has weighing on this matter will agree that Nigeria is suffering from serious security challenges. If you look at it from the prism of whether these attacks were based on religious conviction or were based on economic and political and social consideration, the understanding, in my own perception, is that this insecurity, while it's true that a lot of death, killings have happened in the Benue Trough, from Benue to Plateau to Taraba, it's because those states are predominantly Christians. It's not a single narrative that because it's happened in Benue, in Plateau, and in somehow in Taraba, then that it's Christian genocide. It is a national security challenge that we are facing. If you take, and the question, and people have expressed worry, relying on U.S. intervention as a means of solving a problem that tacitly or otherwise they have been accused of sponsoring, because I have also seen footages of whether U.S. does not have an ulterior motives to this so-called labeling.
Okay, that is
to do certain things, because
Jide, you're joining the fray. You're joining the fray.
A base in Port Harcourt.
Jide, you're joining the fray in speculating and conspiracy theory, because the U.S. is saying they are coming with data. Nigeria is saying they are coming with they are coming from the perspective of misinterpreting whatever data they think they have, because it does not correlate with what is on the ground. So I think I'll just stay on that and ask Saheed, let's scrutinize the data. Let's just stay with Jide for a bit so that I can conclude your thoughts on that. Is the interpretation by the US leading to these claims that they are making, is it really flawed, as the federal government is saying here in Nigeria? You yourself said there were Christians killing, but it's not at the magnitude that you're saying.
No. There are Christians killing. I agree. The whole idea of Islamic State for West Africa, ISWAP and Boko Haram, when they started, actually they started out against the Christians. But soon after, it became a free-for-all. It became a blind security threat. Because much of the killings that is happening in the Benue Trough is more of elders-farmers clashes based on access to natural resources and grazing. And so, if, assuming without conceding, that these states also look at what's happening, let's flip the coin. Look at what's happening from Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Kaduna, down to Niger State. You will see that if you look at the tally, more people have been killed in the northwest than even in the northeast. We just had an abduction of 25 female students yesterday. Yesterday. The issue for me is not about what I'm trying to poo-poo is the
genocide framing. Yes, that's what you've been trying to establish.
The challenge is there. We have an existential security threat.
Okay.
To come from the mindset of, it's Christians that are being eliminated.
Okay,
yes,
I think you've been able to establish that, Jide. Let's get Saheed's thoughts on this same question, the interpretation of the data.
Thank you very much. From the data that we have interrogated so far, we are able to discover that between 2010 and 2022, there are acts that can be said to be, specifically targeted at Christian population. But as other study also pointed out, just about 5%, because if we look at the attack between that time to 2022, you will see that the attack is also very much. And I agree with what Mr. Jide just said, that even if we look at the areas where these killings have taken place, you will see that the conflict is around issue of farmer resources, farmer, which is around farmer elder conflict. And again, this is something that has to do with economy. And again, if we look at it, some of those conflicts also, for example, let me take us to the Southeast. In 2021 and 2022, there were two different attacks that took place in churches in the Southeast, I think in Anambra State. And it was between two cult groups that attacked themselves within a church. Yes, those events took place, but a lot, or some of them, or majority of them are actually, something that happened in a circumstantial manner. And it will be very difficult to claim that it is a genocide, but this is something that exists within the larger insecurity within the Nigerian state, and this is something that we must understand. And our framing and the way we analyze it should be something that reflects something that talk about the general security challenge that we have in the country.
Okay. Dr. Nwachukwu, Nigerian government have said they're engaging to I'm putting in quote now because it might not be the correct thing, educates their U.S. counterpart as to what the real facts are on the ground. They said their diplomatic engagement so far is working. But considering the activities continuing in terms of the latest being a celebrity, Nicki Minaj, beg your pardon, speaking at the UN on what is happening in Nigeria, do you think that their diplomacy is working?
I don't think so. You know, they're talking about educating the U.S. They are deceiving themselves. Nigeria is the one that needs to be educated. The world don't play with people's life, whether it's Christians or Muslims. I'm saying that nobody should be massacred. The problem we have is based on religious and tribal bigotry. I said that Christians are being massacred. The bottom line is the bottom line. Who's being massacred? Where you massacre in Sokoto and Benue? Those are Christians. So those are Christians that are being murdered. So what are you arguing about? I didn't say there's no murdering in another part of the country. That might be tribal. You know, what right do you have to say you have herdsmen fighting with people economics for their land? What right do herdsmen have over other people's land?
So you do not
cow to be eating somebody's food.
Doc,
what right do they have?
You don't seem to agree with Jide's position that while he is not,
he's deceiving himself.
No, let's use fair language. Deceiving himself. He's also saying that his argument is based on data. You were saying, and he is agreeing that CPC is not a bad thing, but the genocide claims. So do you have perhaps more information as to how the diplomacy can work to improve on the situation here in Nigeria?
You have to start from internal. We need to talk to ourselves. Let Muslims don't murder Christians and let Christians don't murder Muslims. We need to start with ourselves. Something is happening and you're just debating, just for debating. We have to deal with it inside ourselves. We need to build a country where regardless of religion, you can excel and be whatever you want to be. That's the issue.
All right.
We don't need outsiders to come and fix our house. We can work with each other. We can live with each other, but we don't need to be killing each other. That needs to stop.
That's one consensus across board. The killing needs to stop. But away from external players, Jide, do you think the Nigerian government has done enough to protect religious minorities and prosecute religiously motivated violence? We've had cases over time. I think there was a conviction in the Benue case now at Yelewata. I'm not sure. But are they doing enough? How can they use this whole situation to swing things in our favor and improve security?
Now, this is what I like more in this whole conversation, because every life matters, whether it's that of a Christian or a Muslim or a pagan or animist or atheist. Every life matters, black or white. Genocide has been going on in Gaza for 2 years, over hundreds of thousands. Did U.S. condemn the genocide on the part of Israel? I like what Doctor said about we solving our own challenge ourselves. Because while you, Felicity, you said I'm trying to agree with those who are conspiracy theorists. We cannot entirely rule out certain ulterior motives to what is happening in Africa. Look at even what U.S. is doing to South Africa over the so-called white genocide. That to the extent that even with concrete cold facts, U.S. is insisting that there is genocide against white farmers and has refused or said it will not participate in the G20 summit coming up later this month. Anyway, away from that, coming back to your question, the issue for me is that Nigerian government is not doing enough. We all know that. In fact, but for Trump's tweet, that we start seeing rapid action from the security quarters, perhaps the government of Nigeria has been very complacent. Did you know that it took the president going to Yelwata, going to Makurdi, to ask the Inspector General of Police how many arrests he has made since that killing took place, before they quickly rushed and apprehended about 12 people who has now been charged to court by the DSS and are currently being prosecuted. DSS has also arrested people it fingered were involved in the Owo massacre at that Catholic church in Owo. I think they said they arrested one of the masterminds that escaped from Kuje prison just last week. The point is, these people, when you arrest them, is there a prompt prosecution? And that's why I am of the opinion that we need to have a special tribunal, not normal court.
All right, Jide, I hate to interject.
Prosecuting tribunal that can deal with issues expeditiously.
All right, Jide, I hate to interject, but that talk on special courts, I need you to hold your thoughts on that. When we come back from this short break, we'll explore it. And of course, that is after we've taken Saheed's thoughts on one issue you raised, and of course, what we can do differently in improving our own security situation. Do stay with us for the rest of the conversation. Thank you for staying with us. We've been trying to scrutinize what the CPC designation means for Nigeria, how we separate fact from perception and perception from political pressure, among other issues. Saheed, I'll come to you with the original question I shared with Jide. I'm curious as to your perspectives. I'll just recap it. Away from external players, do you think the Nigerian government has done enough to protect religious minorities and prosecute religiously motivated violence? If not, how can they do better and use this situation to improve our lot?
I think Nigerian government has not done much generally in terms of providing security, and all of us will know that. And even, when this designation comes, I'm not sure that much has been done, because there are still killings going on. Just a few days ago, we heard about, kidnapping that happened in Kebbi State, and, the efforts that ISWAP is still making. We have lost a general now that Nigeria has spent a lot, and other soldiers, so I'm not sure that we can say that Nigeria is doing a lot. And just like I have said in other fora, that I think we need to understand that, number one of the things we need to do is to see how we can do what we call security sector reform. I think that we need to start looking at how we begin to address issues that finally lead into death of people, how we begin to address them from the grassroots. Because the way it is now, what we do essentially is that we take reactive approach to issues as security. Things would have happened and then you start deploying security. So what happened to preventive approach, for example? We need to start doing a lot about this. It is not when people, die that you begin to send emissary, or, when conflicts start or when issues come up that you begin to send emissary to those places. But then you need to start looking at how you preempt what will happen. Okay. And I think that part of what we need to do to be able to do this is to address security bottom up and not top down.
All right. Doc, I want to come to you to explore the thoughts that was first put out by Jide. that is, if you have a submission on it. These speculations around the U.S. having interior motive for making these pronouncements. Is it just what meets the eye, or should we cautiously take this into consideration as we pursue solutions?
The U.S. does not have any ulterior motives, period. In Germany, they were massacring the Jews. America intervened and stopped them from wiping out all the Jews on earth. It's been a history of doing that. It's very clear that, like in Jos, in Benue, it's Muslims that go in and massacring Christians. That's straight 1 + 1. There's nothing to debate about that. It's not the Christians that are massacring the Muslims. It's the Muslims that are massacring the Christians. They're burning churches. They're killing the priests and this. What are you arguing? I'm saying Christians shouldn't kill Muslims and Muslims shouldn't kill Christians. We need to sit down and work it out. We can live together. In terms of security, Nigerian security does not exist.
Other specific insights you can give to Nigeria's government that would shift the needle a little. Aside, you've talked about us taking care of our problems by ourselves, talking to ourselves. But beyond that, we've been doing that. The Tinubu's government has said repeatedly that they've been trying to talk to all religious groups and people with different concerns. Is it enough? Is there a specific thing you can say in this regard?
I don't know what effort Tinubu has made. If we talk to ourselves and try to solve it, the world will stay away. Nobody wants to come and send soldiers to Nigeria. It's us. If we talk to ourselves and start dealing with the issue, the world will stay away. Nobody wants to come and invade Nigeria. But, they are not serious. And it's been going on for too long. And this must stop.
Jide, back to you. You submitted that special courts are needed to try crimes that has to do with religion and violence against all people in Nigeria. I need you to expand on that a little more.
So I will do that, but let me also drop this. Because when you alluded to the fact that it's a conspiracy theory, it was a U.S. House of Reps member early this year that said USAID was funding Boko Haram. Scott Perry. I didn't say that, even though U.S. government denied it. If you also have seen the footage of Professor Bolaji Akeyemi, where he said when government set up a committee to investigate these killings and all of that, that they said some white people were dropping arms, food and logistics for this.
Jide, as much as I would let you go ahead and speak, the point here is that they said it does not make it factual and true. Do they have evidence? We are a station that encourages all perspective, but it is also important that while you're dropping it, that they said it doesn't make it true. Did they provide evidence? So let's just shift a little away from there and move towards...
I agree, but remember, Felicity, remember what the former CDS also said. Chris Musa, he also first mooted this whole idea that there may be more to this issue of killings by Israel Boko Haram that meet the eyes, that there is an international collusion that are also responsible for funding and providing lifeline to these criminal elements. And whether we believe it or not is secondary. I'm only putting it out there. Now, has government done enough? Of course not. Do we need them? Of course, yes. We do need them. And I've said, even in my column early on the 5th of November, I wrote about this CPC listing, and I charged President Tinubu to up the ante because he has not done enough. We are seeing a lot of fruit dragging, a lot of collusion and connivance, while ordinary citizens get murdered without any proper investigation. For me, I'm not sympathetic to whether Muslim or Christian, every life matter to me. I'm a Christian by default because my parents were Christians. But there are also many people who are Muslims who are just Muslim by default because they were born into an Islamic family. We have seen a lot of killings, people against the Shiites, people in Kaduna, in Zaria, the El Zakisaki group. Hundreds of their members have been killed. That's also a genocide. So if you want to go by who is to blame, we just must not confine our thought process to only Nigeria, because these groups
Jide,
that are responsible may have international backers.
Again, as we wind down, Jide, as we wind down, I'd like us to shift more towards solution. The blame games will always be there. The conspiracy theories will always be there. And that was why I asked the question earlier to Saheed that what can we do positively with this insinuation towards improving our lot? None of you have been able to give me, something concrete to jump away with that perception, because whatever theory it is, at the end of the day, it still comes to us having conversation and dialogue within ourselves. To that end, Saheed, can improved interfaith dialogue and religious literacy play a role in changing this narrative, and how?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that will go a long way, but I really don't think that there is there may be, but it's very mild. I'm not sure that the problem here is really between Muslim and Christian in terms of relation. Yes, I'm not saying that there are no problems there, between the two religious groups in Nigeria. But I think the problem here is that there are armed groups in many places across the country, and somebody is not doing something to prevent them from killing the people. And I think that, the issue is more around insecurity than, a religious relationship among. I know interfaith dialogue, they are doing a lot in various states, in local governments, in this, Nigerian states generally. But the problem is that, government that ought to provide security, that ought to protect people, is not doing its work. And, that is where the recommendation, I think, ought to be coming to. What do we do to make government, how does government begin to become more responsive to its, main function of providing security for the people? And that's why I suggested, that we need to start looking at how do we restructure the security sector in the country. For example, we have the various levels of governments in this country. We have the federal, we have the state, we have the local government. But the security function is performed more by the federal government. State is just, and the local government are just supportive. But for me, I think that we need to start addressing security even from the local government. That's why I said, a bottom-up approach. Because everything is happening within a locality. The kidnapping that took place in Maga, some couple of days back, took place in a local government. And you expect the police or the army to go and, intervene. But then, who has the power to do that? This is always coming from the presidency. It's too centralized. We need to start addressing it from the grassroots. And I think that more power has to go, to the grassroots, to be able Saheed, to address this. This is the point I'm making. And if Saheed, we are not doing this, it will be very difficult for us to address our problem, the security problem.
Saheed, this is about the third time you're referencing starting from the grassroots. Could you explain that? Expand on what you mean by grassroots dialogue. Is it intelligence gathering? Is it re-energizing vigilante group? What exactly do you mean from the bottom up in terms of practicality?
Okay, take for example, what I'm saying is that if we have a local government, part of the function of the local government is that it should be providing security. So how does it do that, for example? So it means that we need to start, to think about the decentralization of the security agency, for example, like the police. I think it is an aberration. We should understand that it is an aberration to always think that we'll wait until when everything escalates and then we start deploying soldiers. But police can help us to actually nip this in the bud at the local level. That is, if the local government at the local government level, they have the power to be able to commandeer, to be able to, commandeer certain constitutionally recognized elements that they can deploy to provide security. If we are not providing security from the grassroots, if it has to come from the federal government, then it percolates to the state, we are not going to get it right. So the point I'm making is that the local government chairman, and the ESCO, the states, they need to play more security function, security role than the federal government.
Okay. I'm not sure. I think it's Doc I should come to, because I've been waiting for you to, give us something really solid on this matter. So in terms of solutions. So please take this up. Saheed has talked about a bottom-up approach, getting local communities better integrated in the security architecture of this country. What is your 2 cents on that subject? And is it explorable in your thinking to improve our security lot?
Yeah, I've spoken on this a lot. The security have to start at the village level. The local government is too far away. It has to be village. You have the king, you have the president of the town. Each town have villages. All of them needs to have vigilante that's well equipped. We're doing it already. The villages have CCTV that knows anybody moving, who's doing something irregular, we pick it up immediately. And our vigilante from each village goes immediately and stop them. And the village communicates with other villages, and they all come. And they communicate with the local government, and they communicate with the statewide vigilante. We're doing it already. That's what you need in every part of Nigeria. You don't need, if you're waiting for police to come from Abuja or DSS, all your people will be dead. It starts, you are the one that's motivated to keep your land and save your people. Our Nigerian people locally are more than enough to do it. We're doing it. You have to buy them the Jeep, the Siennas, you have to buy them the equipment, the equipment to protect their people. That's what you need. You need cameras, CCTVs, you need walkie-talkies, you need to have communication throughout the state, from villages to towns to local government to the state. That's the only way. If not, you're going to be counting 100 people dying like a middle belt, 200 people dying. That's all you're going to be getting.
Not to be a clog on the wheel, but you do know that there are some localities in this country that are yet to get internet or mobile penetration. So even if you have these gadgets, CCTV and the lot, it might not really be functional, because some of these areas are pretty rural in terms of infrastructure and facility.
That's what we're doing it from where I am from. The governors, that's the job of the governor, to take care of his people, keep them from dying. It's the job of the governor to provide those things.
Okay.
So I don't accept that. If you're a governor, you make sure you have those infrastructures that will help provide the architecture for security.
Okay.
Nobody should die in Nigeria because of vigilante or because of all these things, because if you can defend yourself, nobody can touch you. In America, they say peace through strength. If you're strong, nobody can come and kill you.
All right.
Because all the American house, everybody have gone. All American house, everybody have gone. You can't come and enter American house without you dying.
All right. Jide, I really liked what you said about all lives matter. Every life must matter if we are to actually achieve the security we are looking at. So looking at a holistic approach, I still want to explore submission by Saheed. We are reactive half the time. in this country when it comes to security matters. So what would be your submission in terms of moving more towards preventive approach by the government and security agencies other than reactionary? I mean, the case of yesterday that these girls, or was it Thursday, that these girls were kidnapped, there was simply no security. And we've always known that these areas are prone to these kinds of activities. Why were there nobody? There was nobody there to save those children.
Felicity, that's the shame of a nation. We are always reactive rather than being proactive. And let me speak to wider. Saheed has been very spot on. Let's have a bottom up. But for me, it goes beyond just bottom up, because Doc also mentioned it was you that mentioned the issue of infrastructure, the road networks. So many of these places are hard to reach. There are no police station anywhere close. There's a lot of ungoverned spaces, which is why these bandits and these insurgents operate unfettered. So what do we need to do? First, I spoke to issue of speeding up prosecution of those arrested so that they don't eventually get escaped, or, justice delayed is justice denied. Two, we need to do something about our porous border. We have a lot of light weapons and small arms floating all over the country. People can buy, AK-47, AK-49, AK-94. They can buy it in the black market. And we have not done enough to mop up these arms and ammunition. Of course, it has its own history. From when in 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was taken off by the US, and then the whole militia thing and the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. So we need to do something about that.
Right.
We need a lot of surveillance. Then we need state police like yesterday. This has been on the table of the National Assembly for many years. This is the time to expedite action. Let's have state police so that these vigilantes can carry sophisticated weapons. All these Amotekun and Ebigaragu, they are not as effective as they should be in terms of defending the communities.
Jide, Saheed, and Dr. Nwachukwu, thank you so much for sparing time to talk to us on these very sensitive subjects. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Felicity. Have a great evening.
You too. You too. I am a stakeholder as much as I am a presenter, so these are my thoughts. Nigeria's place on the U.S. Religious Freedom Watch List is more than a label. It is a reflection of how the world sees our internal struggles and the government's response to them. Whether or not you agree with the designation, it is a signal that we must take seriously. The prosecution of religious freedom, the protection, rather, of religious freedom is not just a foreign policy issue. It is central to peace, justice, and democratic values we claim to uphold. The world is watching, but more importantly, Nigerians are watching, and it is only through genuine accountability, inclusive governance, and sustained dialogue that we can tell a better story, both at home and abroad. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. It is bye for now.